this big object, kind of circular, he says, is coming up from the depths. And he starts screaming through the intercom system to tell him to pull the diver up. And the diver's like a few feet from the water. So they reverse the winch, and the diver's thinking, what the hell's going on? And he's getting pulled up, and all of a sudden, he said the torpedo just got sucked down underwater, and the object just descended back down into the depths.
Welcome to Critical Cloud Mass. On episode 1361 of the Joe Rogan podcast, Commander David Fravor describes an unidentified submerged object snatching a torpedo back into the depths as a diver attempted to retrieve it while being lowered by a CH-53. The story was told to Fravor after his Nimitz case was made public in 2017, although the video from the incident appeared online well before that.
He was flying CH-53s, which is a big lift, heavy lift that the Marine Corps uses, and the Navy uses it for certain things. Have these things, they're called BQMs, they fly around, and then when they're all done, because they'll fly towards the ships, and they can track with the radar. He said the first time they're out, and they're going to pick up this BQM. And those things, when they're flying, they're done, a parachute comes out, and they got to go, they hook it up, the helo drops the swimmer in the water. He goes and hooks this whole thing up, and then they hoist the whole thing up and fly back, and then they extract the data. So he says he's going on there, and they're getting this thing hooked up, and as he's looking down, because they're, 50 feet above the water, he sees kind of this dark mass coming up from the depths. And they start to hoist the diver up, and they've got the BQM, and as they hoist it up, he says, and he's looking at this thing going, what the hell is that? And then it just goes back down underwater. It just once they pull the kid and the BQM out of the water, this object descends back into the depths. So he thinks, well, that was pretty weird. So he goes out, he says, not too long later, a few months later, he's out and he's picking up a torpedo. So he says they hook the diver up on the winch and they're lowering him in, and as he's looking down, he sees this big, massive, he goes, it's not a submarine. He's seen submarines before. Once you see a submarine, you can't confuse it with something else. This big object, kind of circular, he says, is coming up from the depths, and he starts screaming through the intercom system to tell him to pull the diver up. And the diver's like a few feet from the water. So they reverse the winch, and the diver's thinking, what the hell's going on? And he's getting pulled up, and all of a sudden, he said the torpedo just got sucked down underwater, and the object just descended back down into the depths, and they never recovered the torpedo.
Jesus.
And this happened in the late 90s. Mid to late 90s, I think it is. I could probably get in touch with him and ask him. And he told me this story, and I'm like, the only reason they talked to him when they did the New York Times stuff, they talked to him, but because the incident was from the 90s, they wanted something, newer. So they did not include it, but I know they talked to him.
As UFO and UAP research evolves, it becomes more and more evident there is a big connection to UFOs and Earth's oceans. Do UFOs use our oceans as a power source, a medium to remain less seen in, a domain not overpopulated and ideal for von Neumann probes? It seems that USOs are a case worth studying. While transmedium drones do exist, true UFO to USO are usually reported at speeds and assumed impact velocities that would obliterate UAVs able to also operate submerged.